Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nikki and today we are going to be talking about pantry staples. So this is going to be a video on how I keep my pantry nice and stocked with all of the dry goods that we could need. I'm also going to go over how you can calculate how much flour or sugar you would need for a year or however long you're looking to calculate for. I like to use these 5-gallon buckets. They are good for so many different things. We buy ours from our local hardware store. Just make sure when you're looking for 5-gallon buckets, you're finding food safe ones that have no BPA in them. Since you're going to be storing food, you obviously don't want any of those yucky chemicals. For each of my dry goods, I have 2 buckets. One of them is a working bucket that has a gamma lid on it. If you do not know what gamma lids are, basically they just go on your bucket and they have a twist top here like so, which means that they can stay airtight, which is one of the most important things you can do for bulk long-term storage. And they're also easy to come on and off because the regular bucket lids are so hard. Now, of course they will work, but if you have the money to allocate to gamma lids, I would definitely recommend. I will link some in the description box below. Like I was saying, we have a working bucket, which has the gamma lids, and then we also have a backup bucket. So typically I will store enough flour for about 3 months, but I also keep wheat berries on hand. They store a lot longer, so I like having the mix of both. One of the reasons that I buy my dry goods in bulk is because it saves so much money. When you buy a small bag of flour, you're paying like $10 for that bad boy. But when I buy a 50-pound bag of flour, that only costs me between $25 and $30, which is quite a big difference. You just never know the state of the world, and I do not want to be somebody that lives in panic or fear, but it's always good to have a surplus of the foods that you use on a regular basis, just to make sure you could get through an emergency should it happen. So let's get into actually putting our dry mixes into our buckets. So I'll take my bucket like so. You can put it on the ground, of course. I'm just putting it on a chair today. And these are 50-pound bags, so they are definitely heavy. Do this on a day when you need to vacuum the floor and do it before you do that, because you will probably spill. It's just all part of it. But anyways, shake it down. I didn't think this through and I didn't leave enough space in here. So I'm just gonna fill up our jar, do it over top again. And again, remember, you're probably going to spill. Okay, and then this goes to our working pantry, which I will show you after. There we go, that's better. Now your gamma lid twists on. Okay, we're gonna do brown sugar next. So same deal, the lid twists off. You also don't need any fancy labels. I just use a piece of masking tape or painter's tape, and then I write what the option is on there. I didn't end up buying brown sugar this last time because we still have some left over in this bag. Somebody had actually told me about a trick to put marshmallows in, and it has worked really, really well. So if your brown sugar is quite stale, pop a marshmallow in there and it will definitely help. And we'll throw a few marshmallows in. And a 50-pound bag of brown sugar will last us about 6 months. Here I have some small red beans. These can be used in a lot of different recipes, and they can actually save you quite a bit of money by cooking your own versus doing canned. So I did pick up quite a big bag. I don't know how long it's going to take for us to go through this, but I'm going to store the bulk of this into this 2-liter or 2-quart mason jar. I used my canning funnel already today, so here we go. Of course, if you love beans, you could do it in one of those 5-gallon buckets, but for us, we don't use that many of them, so we will just be putting them in jars today. I know sometimes it can feel like everybody else is doing better than you and they all have it sorted out. They've got enough food prepped for an entire year and you're just starting out with these tiny little baby steps. It feels very hard and frustrating when you feel like you're so behind. But I really want to show you that I make mistakes and do silly things just like the rest of us. I want to showcase the realism as well, so you don't look at me and think that I'm doing everything right or everything well or I have it all figured out, because I absolutely do not. I learned so much from you guys down in the comments as well. I love sharing my knowledge. I think it's so exciting to learn all these different skills, but I never want you to feel like you're doing something wrong or not successful. So here is one of my fails that I just figured out. We do go through a good amount of oats. I like to make my granola bars from my ebook. If you haven't, you should, because it is pretty awesome, if I do say so myself. But in there I have a granola bar recipe, and we make granola bites all the time. We also make our homemade granola. So oats just make sense. However, I have my working bucket and I also have my backup bucket, and I thought both were empty. And I ended up buying an entire bag of oats that I did not need. So I'm gonna have to pick up some more buckets and put those in. But for now, I'm gonna show you how I would swap these out. So when I was saying that it's a nightmare to open these up, I believe there's little tools to assist with that. We don't have that, but you can just open up the lid. Now you have two options. One, you can just dump this bucket into this bucket. I bought them at the same time, so there's no harm in either of that. However, if you bought a new bag of oats like I did, I would put all of the old oats into a separate container and then pour the new oats in first, so you would utilize the old oats first, if that makes any sense. Your second option is you can take this ring off and place it on your other bucket. I do find they're a little bit finicky sometimes. That one actually slid right on. And then you can take your working bucket oats and just pour them right on in. And now this will be my working bucket, and I'm going to fill up this bucket, which is now empty, with my new oats. And that is going to get this very difficult to remove lid onto it. This bag of oats is huge. It's the entire length of my upper body. So maybe do it on the ground. Oh my. I also might not have cut that big of a hole into here. Whew. Only spilled that one a little bit. Make sure it is snapped very well into place, and then I will show you. I'm not sure if I ran out of masking tape or if the kids just took it for some sort of project, but we're gonna use this tape instead. Place it on the top, and then we're going to write oats and the date, which is February 27, 2025. So then we'll know that we'll use this working bucket of oats first, then we'll go to our February 2025 oats, and we'll just do the swapsy again. So this is a little nook inside my pantry. This is where we store all of our buckets. The way that I like to put things away is based on the things that I use the most. In the back there, we have wheat berries and the oats, and then we have our flour. So I'll put the other working pantry flour up there, and then the working pantry oats. And then I'll put my rice way in the back there. Then we have our brown sugar and then white sugar. Kind of a small space to try and show you. But that's how I like to store all of our dry goods here. Like I mentioned, this is our working pantry, but we also have another pantry that has our baking mixes and our smaller things, as well as some sugars and such. I'm gonna show that to you next. So this is my other working pantry here. I also have another section over here, but basically this is the one that houses most of my dry goods. So we have here our pancake and waffle mix, our beans that we just did, some sugar, hot chocolate mix, one of my rice mixes. I have more pancakes and waffles. I made quite a bit of this because we use it a lot. Cornbread, brown sugar, baking powder, and baking soda. So whenever I need something, I will consult this pantry if I'm looking for one of my rice mixes or I'm looking for a baking mix. This is where I'll look first before I make more. This is typically where I'll store my seasoning mixes. Right now I'm running low on a few of them. I do have my sriracha salt and my vegetable bouillon, but I need to restock a few of these. If you haven't tried any of my seasoning mixes, you really should, because they are so good. And I'm not just saying that. They are so much better than any of the store-bought varieties. I'll link a few of them in the description box below. But my ebook also covers quite a few of these different seasoning recipes, and all of them taste phenomenal on popcorn. Our favorite one is the seasoning salt. That one goes on our popcorn. Sometimes it'll go sprinkled on raw vegetables or as a seasoning to any of the recipes that we make. It is seriously that good. So this is where I would store it. If you're keeping track, I have a spot in my big pantry for all of my big items of dry mixes. Then I also have a smaller section for our working pantry. It's right within my kitchen, and that's the one that I use when I'm baking or anything like that. And then I also have my seasoning mixes up here. Okay, so let's move on to how you can actually plan for how much stuff you will need for an entire year. So I showed you how I store all of my dry goods. Now I want to help you figure out how much you are going to need for the year. So grab yourself a copy of this Year of Dry Goods free printable. I will link it down below. It's just going to be in the blog post attached to this video. But we're gonna start filling this out together. So I have the main dry goods that I keep on hand here. That's flour, sugar, brown sugar, yeast, salt, oats, and rice. And basically you're gonna go through each one of these and calculate how much you use on a daily basis. So typically if I'm making baked goods or bread, anything like that, I go through about 4 cups of flour per day, somewhere around there. Sugar, I'm gonna go more on the higher end, and I'm gonna say 1 cup per day. Brown sugar, we're gonna go with 1/2 cup. Yeast, we're gonna do 1 tablespoon. Salt, we're gonna say the same. Oats, I use, I don't know, like 4 cups every week or so. So we're gonna say 1 cup per day. And then rice, when I do cook rice, I do it about a couple times a week, and I do about 2 cups each time. So I'm going to say 4 cups per week. So then you can figure out your yearly amount. So I know I use 4 cups of flour per day, and there's 365 days per year, which means I use 1,460 cups of flour per year. Then white sugar, I do 1 cup a day, and there's 365 days, so we use 365 cups. 1/2 cup, so we do 0.5 times 365. So that's 182.5. Let's just actually figure out the oats and the rice. So same with the oats, we would do 365 cups. And rice, we do 4 cups per week. So we would do 4 times 52 weeks. So 208. Now, things like salt and yeast are a little bit trickier because we're doing them in tablespoons instead. So we'll do 1 tablespoon a day. Sorry, we can figure that out without the math. So it'd be 365 tablespoons. So I put a little chart at the bottom. 16 tablespoons equals 1 cup. So we're going to take 365, which is how many tablespoons, and divide it by 16. Which means we're using 22.8 cups. So we'll do 365 tablespoons, and that works out to 23 cups. Now, what you can do, we have all of these in cups. 1 cup is equal to 250 grams here. So we're going to take our cups here, 1460, and we're going to multiply it by 250, because that will give us how many grams we will need per year. 365,000 grams. But then, I know this seems very overwhelming and intimidating, but once you do it a couple of times, you're going to be able to figure this out. It sounds very intimidating, but you really only have to do this once, and then you're set for the rest of your life, basically. But it's 365,000 grams. And then you're going to divide that by 1,000 because that's how many grams are in a kilogram. So we're at 365 kilograms. Then we'll do the same thing here for our sugar. So 365 cups, and then we're going to multiply that by 250, which is how many grams are in 1 cup, and then divide that by 1,000, and that will give us how many kilograms we need. So we need 91 kilograms. And so we can go same here for the oats, 91 kilograms. Actually, we can figure out brown sugar. I use half a cup, so we'll just take this number, 91.25, divide that by 2, and that is 45.6. So we're going to go 46 kilograms. Then we need 23 cups of yeast. We're going to multiply that by 250 grams because that's how many grams are in a cup. And then we're going to divide that by 1,000. So we're going to need 5.75 kilograms of both yeast and of salt. And then rice, we have 208 cups times 250 divided by 1,000. So we will only need 52 kilograms. Okay, so I can totally see how this would feel extremely overwhelming because it is a lot of math and it's a lot of calculations. But once you have this sorted, you can go onto your list here. I might print off 2 of them just so you can have one in cups and one in kilograms. If I'm looking at brown sugar, I need 46 kilograms of brown sugar per year. So I know this 20 kilogram bag is going to last us roughly 6 months, give or take, depending on how much we're using, if we use more that month or less. But we will basically need to stock at least 2 of those bags for the entire year. That is not outrageous. You can also just buy a bag as you go, which is kind of what we've been doing. My goal is to work my way up to at least a year, maybe even 2 years of some of these bulk goods, but I still am a little bit hesitant just because of storage issues. I think I need to do some testing before I commit to storing that much, just so nothing goes bad. But now we can look at oats, which I would need 91 kilograms per year. So this bag of oats is 50 pounds. Again, we have to do a little bit of math because 50 pounds divided by 2.2, which is the conversion to kilograms, gives us 22.7 kilograms of oats. So then you can take that number, which is 22.7. So we'll do 22.5, and you can look on your form here, and I need 91 kilograms. So you would take 91 kilograms, divide that by 22.7, which is how much weight is in this bag. And I know that I'm gonna need 4 of these bags per year, which actually feels a little bit high. I don't think I use that many oats. But regardless, you can have at least a ballpark, and then from there, you can start keeping track of your working pantry and how often you're actually buying these things. Just write a little note to yourself on your calendar every time you go and stock up on something. And that way you can start keeping track of how much you actually use versus your projected amounts. I really hope that that made sense to you. It's a lot of estimation, especially in the beginning when you're starting to build your pantry. The most important thing is having your storage containers ready to go, like those buckets or those mason jars, and having some means of extending the shelf life. So that means making it airtight. You could also use one of those mason jar sealers, a vacuum sealer. That's on my to-buy list. I have not yet. So if you have one and love it, please let me know in the comments down below. I am going to put a link in the description box below to one of the options that I found on Amazon, the one that I would purchase if I was going to buy one. For now, please let me know if you have any comments or questions or concerns in the comment box below. I really do love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you more than you know. Take care.